A group of Portsmouth parents lose an important test case about home education.
We'll have reaction from the High Court.
Now the latest from ITV News Meridian in the south.
Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the south. A group of Portsmouth parents lose an important High Court test case over home education. So how many will now be told to send their children back to school?
The IT glitch that slowed down a whole ambulance service. CCAM back online after declaring a critical incident.
Also tonight, Disability History Month. The man from Chandler's Ford, who's leading a campaign for change, tells us why it matters.
Still hold us together.
And later with Jools Holland, the music maestro on tour in the south and working with greats like Sir Tom Jones. Good evening. Families in Portsmouth who took a fight over their rights to home educate their children to the highest court in the land have lost the case.
The local authority had issued several orders instructing parents to send their children back to school unless they could prove they were being well educated at home.
Today's decision paves the way for those to return to school orders to go ahead after the court ruled the City Council is acting legally and fairly in asking for proof and evidence of how children are progressing and being taught.
Parents say they are now deciding whether to appeal. Our social affairs correspondent Christine Alsford has more.
It's a case that goes right to the heart of a parent's right to decide how to educate their children and how that should be measured and monitored by the state. Campaigners from Portsmouth who brought the case to the High Court in Bristol argue that their local authority didn't understand how home education worked, unlawfully and unfairly demanding written evidence of progress, curriculum, timetables and the like. But today the court ruled against them on all grounds. Campaigners who say this was a test case for home educators here and elsewhere say they're horrified.
We are utterly shocked. People cannot understand how the court could have arrived at a judgment which indicates Portsmouth City Council to be in any way even approaching reasonableness. They are stunned. Home educating parents throughout the nation are stunned.
The ruling means the council can continue to demand information such as workbooks, photographs and timetables rather than just relying on home educators' own written reports. And it also means legal cases against parents could now be progressed to court. Portsmouth City Council's lead for children and families told us, "I am pleased with the outcome of the judicial review, which vindicates the approach we have taken. We have always been supportive of families who wish to electively home educate their children and who can demonstrate that suitable education is taking place according to their age, aptitude and ability and any special educational needs." Home educators argue the council is heavy-handed and inflexible, saying they started action against nearly 40% of home educating families in 2020. But today's outcome puts the need to independently verify the quality of education a child receives above all else.
Christine Alsford is with us now. Christine, what specific legal steps is the council already taking against families who don't prove they're delivering a suitable education?
Well, it's a long and complicated process, but it ends up with the local authority issuing a special order demanding a child returns to school within 2 weeks. Now, failure to comply with that can potentially end up in a fine or jail. Now, we understand at least 56 parents in Portsmouth had some form of action started against them in the first 3 months of this year alone. And this ruling means that more families from the 115 or so who are home educating Portsmouth right now could potentially be added to that list. At the moment, the council is saying they want to work closely with families, but with this decision in their favour, they could decide to take quite a hard line in the future.
And what are the chances of an appeal being brought?
Well, the dust is still settling on all of this, but we understand that parents are meeting their legal team this evening, so we should know fairly soon if an appeal will be lodged.
Christine, thank you very much.
The Home Secretary has announced that a public inquiry is to be held into the death of Dawn Sturgis. The 48-year-old from Amesbury died in July 2018 following exposure to the nerve agent Novichok during the Salisbury poisonings. Priti Patel says the investigation is being established to ensure all relevant evidence can be considered, with the hope that Dawn Sturgis's family will get the answers they need and deserve. The inquiry will be chaired by Baroness Hallett. It is expected to start hearing evidence next year.
The former Police and Crime Commissioner for Wiltshire has appeared in court today accused of making a false statement. Conservative Jonathan Seed won May's election but withdrew when an historical driving conviction emerged. He's pleaded not guilty. At Oxford Crown Court, a date for a full trial was set for next July. Computer systems are back online at South East Coast Ambulance Service after a major IT fault impacted ambulance dispatch systems yesterday. The service declared a critical incident and urged the public not to call 999 unless it was an emergency.
The disruption has led unions to question the pressure paramedics are under. Andy Dickinson is at CCAM's headquarters in Crawley with the latest tonight. Andy, what's the situation there now?
Well, things, thankfully, Sangeeta, much calmer here than at least compared to yesterday, where that IT failure forced CCAM to declare a critical incident. That was finally stood down at just after 11 p.m. last night. It had meant the emergency service was asking patients not to call 999 unless it was absolutely essential. But it's now led people both inside and outside the service to question the pressure paramedics are currently under. Brighton Pavilion MP Caroline Lucas says she'd already written to the Health Minister just yesterday morning, warning of the intolerable pressures on CCAM staff in the wake of the ongoing pandemic. Her concerns echoed by union reps.
Well, NHS leaders have already told us that they think that we're going to be facing the most difficult winter ever. And when you consider the fact there have been some pretty difficult winters in the past, I think that should be an absolute wake-up call to government. Every single light should be flashing red on their dashboard. The pressures that staff are under right now just cannot be overstated.
We all thought that this pandemic was likely to be quite short-lived, and it's turning out to be longer and longer than any of us ever envisaged at the start. Our crews, my colleagues, have been under extreme amounts of pressure for now a considerable amount of time, and those pressures have shown no sign of easing. In fact, the whole system pressures that we're seeing are getting worse and worse.
Well, this critical incident had meant some calls were being diverted, the paramedics themselves struggling with a backlog, staff here working with just paper and pen. This a week after it was reported that NHS and ambulance waiting times were at their highest levels ever. Today, CCAM said it was busy and back to normal, extending a massive thanks to its staff and volunteers for their outstanding work, as well as their fellow ambulance trusts and hospitals for stepping in.
Andy, live in Crawley, thank you.
Train services in the Salisbury area have again been disrupted tonight following the crash more than 2 weeks ago. The line was closed until Tuesday after a South Western service skidded past a red signal into a Great Western train in front of it. Slippery track is blamed. The line reopened to delays on Tuesday because of track problems yesterday due to slippery conditions, and this afternoon delays were blamed on track failure.
Southampton is set to twin with the Indian city of Mumbai under plans being backed by councillors. A ceremony which would see representatives of both cities signing an agreement is expected to be held as soon as next week. Civic chiefs say it will deepen relationships with India and be a boost for Southampton's bid to become the UK City of Culture in 2025. Both great cities. Great partnership, hopefully.
News. Lovely. You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up.
We're seeing Portsmouth in a whole new light. We're live in the city at the start of a brand new festival.
For more on all our stories, go to itv.com/Meridian. You can always give us a call, the phone number coming up on your screen. And remember, you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Years of underfunding and a pandemic have taken their toll on our social care system. In September, long-awaited health and social care reforms were announced, with the government saying it's investing billions, including £500 million, to support the development and well-being of carers.
But is it enough to fix a system many believe is broken? ITV's Tonight programme is investigating, as Sarah Coley reports.
Whether it's supplied by councils or independent providers, for the workers who deliver care, it is a demanding job.
It's 6:25 in the morning and I'm just about to set off to go to work. I have 29 calls to complete today by 10 o'clock tonight.
Courtney is on a run of 5 days of 15-hour shifts.
Morning and lunch was quite hectic this morning. Due to staff sickness, I had to do a couple of calls on my own.
Around 1 million people need publicly funded social care in a care home or their own home. In October, the Care Quality Commission said we'd see a tsunami of unmet need because of staff shortages. The government's Made with Care campaign aims to fill 100,000 job vacancies.
Currently we have 25 staff, we have 6 vacancies, we are all working flat out.
Frontline carers are now obliged to have the COVID jab to carry on working, another blow to staffing levels.
That's the hardest thing you've ever had to do.
Louise has been a care worker for 14 years, is not vaccinated and has just lost her job.
The reason I don't want the vaccine is because I don't trust it yet. I'm not saying I'll never have it. I've been called an anti-vaxxer, which I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
Government reforms paid for by our national insurance are expected to raise £36 billion, with over £5 billion going to social care in England. But some say it doesn't go far enough.
Billions of pounds to bring the pay structures up to make it a worthwhile career where people really want to stay and really want to develop.
Courtney has just finished her last shift of the week.
It really does take it out of you, but the most rewarding thing is knowing that everyone's been seen to and looked after the way they should be.
It's likely we'll all rely on the work of carers at some point in our lives, and it's hoped the new reforms will improve things. But the worry is that it could be too little, too late. Sarah Coley, ITV News.
And you can watch the full programme tonight, Social Care, The True Cost, here on ITV at 7:30 this evening.
And the ITV Evening News Hour continues here with the national and international news at 6:30 with more Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, the Prime Minister's accused of a betrayal over rail after scaling back promised improvements. HS2 will not now be built up to Leeds, nor will there be a new line from Leeds to Manchester. But can other upgrades make up for it? Also ahead, a special report on England's struggling maternity wards as staff shortages bite. Plus, Lady Gaga on the emotional roller coaster of her latest film.
This movie is very funny and it's entertaining and it's beautiful and it's sad and it's wild and it's a ride.
That and more at 6:30. Join me then.
Thank you, Mary. Around 14 million people in the UK are disabled, and many say they encounter harmful stereotypes and barriers to accessibility.
Today is the start of UK Disability History Month, and over the next few weeks we'll be celebrating diversity and exploring the challenges disabled people in our region still face on a daily basis. Catherine Walker has our report.
Challenging stereotypes can be frustrating for George in Chandler's Ford. He has congenital muscular dystrophy and often comes across outdated and offensive attitudes towards disability.
I think the biggest frustration by far is that people don't expect disabled people to have ambitions or normal lives. You know, we're put into this category where, oh, that's a disabled person. When, you know, we're brothers, we're sisters, we're husbands, we're wives, we're romantic partners, we're business partners. We do all the things that everybody else does.
It's these attitudes that inspired Richard to take action. He founded UK Disability History Month to raise awareness of the barriers faced by the disabled community.
The whole point of Disability History Month is to at least once a year put a focus, though we would like it all through the year, a focus on disabled people. There are 14.5 million disabled people, according to the government, in our country. That's just under 1 in 5. And most of them are working and getting on with their lives, having families, doing all sorts of things. But they carry, particularly for the 80% who have hidden impairments, the extra burden of having to deal with other people's attitudes.
UK Disability History Month will run from the 18th of November to the 18th of December. This year's themes will explore hidden disabilities, as well as disabled sex and relationships.
The aim is to celebrate the lives of disabled people now and in the past, and to explore what more can be done to make sure disabled people are treated more equally in all areas of society.
Disability Studies at the Academy in the 21st century.
Anna is a law professor at the Centre for Disability Studies. She says we need to understand the history of disabled rights to help inform future decision-making.
Disability rights to be free from discrimination only came into force 25 years ago. That's very, very recent in some ways. And we're thinking very much about agendas such as climate change. How does disability fit into those kind of agendas? How is disability impacted by the big things that have been happening on a global scale? How can we ensure that there's more emphasis on disability inclusion in everything else that's going on? Because unless that happens, we're going to go backwards.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to tell you there's UK Disability History Month.
It's those conversations around inclusion that TikTok star Shelby wants to highlight. She uses her social media platform to challenge misconceptions around disability.
So what does UK Disability History Month mean to you?
I feel like it's a month where disabled people can finally use their voice, and they should be heard by everybody, like no matter what. Like a lot of people are scared to say the word disabled. They want to like change it to other words like that, but disabled isn't a dirty word. Like people need to like understand that, and a lot of disabled people want to call themselves disabled. Like we're not ashamed of that or scared of that.
And that's one of the aims of the next 4 weeks, to challenge stereotypes about disability and learn how everyone can be a better ally. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
And we'll have more on UK Disability History Month next week.
Now, he started out playing the piano in pubs and went on to be part of the 70s rock band Squeeze. And you've probably seen the new year in with this man more than once. We are, of course, talking about Jools Holland.
Sting, Eric Clapton, Ringo Starr, Bono and Sir Tom Jones. Just some of the iconic music stars Jools has worked with during his 47 years in showbiz.
Well, Jools is back on tour, having already played Oxford and Portsmouth tonight. He's in Bournemouth, then the Mayflower in Southampton later this month, and then Brighton in December. Natalie Bohr has been chatting to him.
Jools Holland, thank you so much for talking to us. You're on your autumn-winter tour. What's it like being back on tour after lockdown?
Certainly people are coming out and really enjoying themselves. Musicians are really pleased to be there, really pleased to be on the stage. You know, I think a lot of people in music, you know, if they do long tours, you start to say things like, oh, I'm getting a bit tired of this. Never again. You know, you're just so pleased to be out performing. I think what people probably missed most of all in the pandemic is engaging in some sort of live thing and hearing some sort of live music. So it hasn't been a pleasure, it's been a great deep joy that I'm very thankful we're back coming out again.
And you've got a new album, it's out later this week. It took 2 years to make. What inspired you to make this album?
Well, this record is called The Piano, and the piano is it's called Pianola. It's the Piano and Friends. And so the piano really is my oldest friend because I've had it since I was a small child, and I learnt on my grandmother's piano, and then when we lost her, my mother had it, and now my mum's gone and I've got it. And I sort of realised as I was playing this piano and starting to make this record that without that old pianola, which is pretty bashed up, but has lasted all this time. I wouldn't be here talking to you, Natalie, which I'm enjoying very much. I wouldn't be performing. I wouldn't have had the life I'd had. And also I realised there were a lot of instrumental artists who you never get to hear. And the strange thing is that it's given us, because of the lockdown, a lot of the people you'd have said, let's do a track together. For instance, there's one with Lang Lang, concert pianist, who comes artistically from a completely different place to me. But because everybody's accepting you just do stuff down the line, I sent it to him, and he sent me, and then he put his extraordinary piano on top of my one, sent it back from Shanghai, and there it was.
Have you got a standout performance, one that you'll never forget?
I've probably been one of the luckiest people in music, because really I've played with some of the people who I've idolised since I was small. I've played with new artists that have come along, and I look back and I can't believe it's all happened, really. You know, there were some things with Amy Winehouse that were really great, because at the time you felt this is really, you just looked at her and heard her sing. It was really great.
Naive memories caress the trees tenderly.
On my new record, Tom Jones sung a song that I've written, and that's for me one of the greatest accolades or honours that could happen to you, if he sings a song you've written and turns it into something different and wonderful.
Please forgive me for what I've done.
And your show later has been back. What's it like now that you can have artists back into the studio in person?
Well, the show next year will be 30 years old. Unbelievably, you don't get that for armed robbery 30 years, you know. And the unique thing about the television programme is it's a home for world music, new artists, great legends, blues music, jazz music, some things that don't have a home elsewhere on television, as well as the great popular things.
Now, Ed Sheeran is one person that appeared on your show recently, and he said he knew he'd made it when he was invited onto your show. What's it like when you hear something like that from an artist like him?
It was great that he said that, and I think the most touching thing is he keeps coming back. In fact, he's going to come back on our Hootenanny this year, which is going to be great fun.
So you mentioned your New Year's Eve programme. How much fun is that to make?
It's the best fun in the world to make that show, because we've had some of the most incredible people, you know, whether it's Lionel Richie, Gregory Porter, all these amazing people, and Tom Jones. I mean, it's just, you know, or Amy Winehouse, Paul Weller. It's just endless, great legends in music. But the fun thing about it is they'll let their hair down.
Can you ever imagine a time when you won't be on stage performing?
The music isn't just the job, you do it because you love it, really. You have to love it. You have to love the music, you have to love the people you're playing it to, you have to love what you're playing and play what you love. And so I'm very fortunate, I do that, and I think if you have that, you know, you just keep doing it forever. They say you can't take it with you. Well, I'm not going.
Well, on that note, Jools Holland, thank you so much for talking to us, and good luck with the tour.
Thank you, Natalie.
The wonderful Jools Holland talking to Natalie Ball there.
Now, big Christmas light switch-ons are taking place across the region tonight, including Winchester, Southampton and Portsmouth. Many others are happening this weekend.
Also in Portsmouth, it's the start of a new Festival of Light which will take place over the next few days. The We Shine Festival includes art, murals, dance performances and a lantern parade. The aim is to highlight the cultural importance of the city.
Our reporter Chloe Oliver is live tonight at St Mary's Church in Fratton. And Chloe, what is that behind you?
Andrew, yes, this is one of a number of light and art installations taking place across the city today. This is called Ship of the Gods, and it's used 3D laser technology to bring Norse mythology to life. Now, this myth is about a ship that contained a number of gods and their equipment, and it was shape-shifting, and it could become so small that it could fit inside your pocket. Now, this is the brainchild of Heinrich and Palmer, and they're local famous light artists, and they're actually based in the city as well. It's not just this, a number of events have been happening tonight across the city. There's been light projections across a number of buildings and landmarks. There's a number of lantern parades, dance performances, and also a number of murals. Well, I'm joined now by the organiser of this event, Billy. Now, Billy, those murals, they're also helping the environment too, aren't they?
They are, actually. They're painted painted, two of the largest murals are painted with a paint called Airlight, which helps to reduce CO2 emissions, and it's produced using 100% renewable energy. Also is antibacterial and antifungal, so it's really good for the environment.
And how do you hope this festival will help the people of Portsmouth?
Well, what we're trying to do is just bring more cultural and creative activities to Portsmouth and give local creatives, local schools, local communities more opportunity to collaborate and engage in cultural things. Hopefully grow it year on year and let it become bigger each year.
And what about the future of the event?
Well, like I say, we hope to grow it year on year and be able to collaborate with as many people as possible and provide lots of creative opportunities to everyone within the city and encourage visitors to Portsmouth to show that, showcase the talent that exists here and really get it on the map.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Billy. I think this definitely showcases the talent here in Portsmouth. It's a free event, it began this evening and it runs every evening until Saturday.
Fantastic stuff, Chloe, thank you.
Holly's here. And Holly, explain, what is a hole punch cloud?
Oh, you remembered the name. I'm impressed. This is one of my favourites, I have to say. Take a look. We had a photo in yesterday from Poole, from Simon Treasure, and it forms when you get this layer of cloud that's made of water droplets. And then can you see you've got the hole and you've got this sort of wispy cloud underneath. And they are ice particles that have dropped away from the cloud, okay? And they're quite unusual. I'll show you a few more photos from recent months just while I explain what happens. So, as I say, you get this layer of cloud that gets very, very cold and it cools down below freezing, but it stays as water. It's called supercooled water. And then it only takes a little change for the water droplets to suddenly freeze. For example, a plane could fly through the layer of cloud and then you suddenly get all of the ice crystals freezing. It's like a domino effect and they form this hole and the ice, as I say, sort of drops away beneath it and you get this lovely effect and they're just beautiful. But I've never seen one in real life. They are very unusual.
Yeah, well, they are super cooled pictures there. Are we going to be getting those super cold weather coming up soon?
Oh, I see what you did there. It is getting colder. Sunday is going to feel colder, and then particularly I think later next week we're going to see a real drop in temperatures. So it's been very mild so far. I think we are really going to notice the change. You'll have to dig out those winter coats.
Finally.
Yeah.
Well, Holly, thank you very much indeed. It is going to be turning colder, but let's see what's happening over the next couple of days. Here's Holly.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
We've got mild air in place at the moment and that sticks with us for the next couple of days, particularly for tomorrow. Some brightness to be had tomorrow as well. I've put variable amounts of cloud. I think it will come and go a bit, probably more cloud in general on Saturday. Sunday though we start to see some changes. We've got a weather front heading our way. That could bring some rain for a time before clearing through and probably brightening, but also bringing with it some chillier air. So high pressure dominating the scene for the time being. Mixed up in this we've got fairly cloudy skies at times, this mild air, but watch this cold front sinking its way southwards. Behind us it has, I say, something a bit brighter coming through, but also some chillier air as well. So as we push through this evening, that cloud coming and going, some clear spells to be had. We could see our visibility is dropping down in places, a bit of mist and murk for some, maybe an isolated shower, but mostly dry. And temperatures stay up in double figures, I think, for many, so it is a mild old night. And then as we push into tomorrow, as I say, some poor visibilities perhaps in places. Any mist and fog will lift and clear, and I think cloud will come and go a bit, but we will see some slices of sunshine coming through. You can just see one or two showers there on my graphics, but they're very hit and miss. Most of us will get away with a dry day. And actually with some sunshine, with a light wind, with mild air, it won't feel bad for the time of year. Our high tide times, you've got Portland there at 6:26 and again at 6:42 as you head into the evening. So it's Saturday, perhaps a fair bit of cloud around, but you may get some brightness. Sunday, we start with some rain, but it may well brighten as the day goes on, feeling though that bit chillier, and then particularly later in the week, feeling colder as well.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And before we go, a reminder that our political programme, The Last Word, returns tonight with more Phil Hornby.
Yeah, it's predictions that the number of migrants crossing the channel in small boats would decline as summer gave way to autumn were wrong. Last week in a single day, 1,185 people made the crossing, a record number. So what can be done? We'll also be asking, is political sleaze back? And have politicians done enough to save the planet? Join me for the last word after the late news tonight.
Thank you, Phil. In just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Stacey Poole has our late update just after 10:30. For now, though, from the team here, thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.